Let's see. Can you hear me now?
I can, although you're down pretty low.
Let's see if that's better.
Oh, well, it's much better when you lean in, yeah. But that doesn't look like it'd be very comfortable.
Just moving it a little closer and see if that helps. So, how are you? Oh, and there's Betty.
And there's Betty.
Hey.
How cool.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm trying to get on as much as I can. It's been crazy here, but I miss you guys. I love when I can get on.
I know,
We love when you can.
Thank you.
I was on LinkedIn Friday and I saw, and now I wish I had downloaded it because now I don't remember the exact, but it was a conference about women in psychedelics.
Interesting. Yeah.
I know somebody who's into that. Into that.
Yes, you do. And
Betty, we missed you. Come here, Harry. Come wave and
Hey,
say hi.
Marilyn.
It's just a small crew. Hi.
Hi, dear. Hey, Harry.
Hi.
How are you? I miss you here. When are you coming back?
I wish we could. Boy, that would be nice.
I know. I may come out to see you.
Hey.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping to do that. So
I didn't mean to interrupt whatever was going on, but as Idell knows, who just joined, we have an extra bedroom LA over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
oh,
So how did it all go yesterday?
I was going to ask,
Really
yeah.
well. He moved on. Okay, so the movers were here. They came Saturday at 8 o'clock. He decided on Thursday. Hi, Marie. Our son Zach moved yesterday out of our house. He said, maybe I should take Friday off. And I said, I think you really should. 1 in the afternoon, he's outside reading, drinking coffee. 2 in the morning, he said, oh, I'm really sorry. I had no idea. And you did. And I went, uh-huh. And it all got done. I spent the day in the garage, garage diving for all his crap because he's been here a few years. And then it all went really smoothly. And we went up yesterday. Sarah drove because we were just, I was wasted. And Jesse came and we had dinner at his table. And it was really, he's so happy. And it's a beautiful apartment in a walking neighborhood in West Hollywood.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So, yeah. And anyone who has history with us, it's been a long journey and it's very, very wonderful. We're really, gratitude is not a big enough word. Harry's standing here. We're just like,
Beaming.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
And I realized today that he probably has the healthiest lifestyle of anyone in the family. I mean, he brought the weights, he brought his rower, he walks every day, he reads every day, he gets sun. He does all these healthy things. And we realized with him moving, it's really the juxtaposition of where he's been. And now is just like, oh my God, good things happen.
Wow.
That's our today's
So
story.
happy.
great.
That's fantastic.
You're getting close to an empty nest.
A little over a year. Sarah and Joaquin are here and they'll get married in about a year and then they'll go and then we'll probably downsize the nest so they can't come back.
Wow, Marilyn, that's funny because I was just, not that I think of you when I'm in the shower, but I was today.
Wait, me? Ooh,
I
yeah.
thought the same thing. I thought, it would be about a year from now, they should consider downsizing. That's what I thought in my head this morning when I was in the shower. So and I thought, but you and Harry love your house and your yard and your neighborhood. So it might not be as easy as it sounds, but it crossed my mind this morning.
I think about it every time I go up and down the stairs.
Okay.
Are you moving into my basement?
She knows us very well. You should see her basement. And we always get the option with the meals.
Meal plan.
Yes.
It might be the pie plan.
Pie plan.
The bread, the chocolate.
The bread.
Yes, the everything plan.
No, I just had a wedding drop off Saturday morning of 15 10-inch deep dish apple pies.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So if anybody has Instagram, you can go to Baked by Idel and you can see them. Genevieve posted them today. She does such a cute job.
The music was nice.
She had the wedding theme going. And so I already got an order for Christmas.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it was quick. That was quick. So, but anyway.
Let's see, Idel, I'm trying to pull it up. So, but Baked by Idel, huh?
Yep.
Let's see. I am trying to find it.
So Alona, I have a question for you. So on that curative cacao site, I had ordered the butt naked ceremonial one, and then I got an email stating that they were out of stock. So yes, it keeps going. Yeah.
Here's the pie. Just get any ceremonial cacao that you can.
Okay, because they said there's the golden milk one. Is that okay?
As long as it's ceremonial, golden milk is and other things. You want cacao. C-A-C-O.
Yeah, she said the only one I had was the ceremonial cacao that already had the golden milk.
Don't do. I think that might taste absolutely disgusting.
Because I already paid, and then it wasn't out of stock when I ordered it.
Oh.
So she might. I don't know. I haven't heard back yet. So
I sent out a link to several other options or ideas, Amazon as well as an Etsy vendor. And when I ordered it on Etsy, she had it out the next day, and I had it within 2 days.
Oh my goodness! Well, I already paid on that site, and so I'm hoping that she asked me when the ceremony was, and I told her. But I responded yesterday, so I don't know if they got my response this morning. They haven't responded that yes or no. It's the same thing. I don't know.
All right.
If this is at all helpful, I received an email from Amy Kupferberg.
Yeah, Amy. Yeah.
And she said, "Hi, Robbie. It will be worth it when you get it. I know Ilona liked the cacao with nothing added. I'll get it to you all by the 12th. Enjoy the day." So.
Oh.
Okay, so maybe my response is in the mail.
Maybe.
What? Who is the email from? Because I paid for it too, and I never got emails or confirmation or anything.
Well, the first email I got was "Forgive the delay." She was, where is it? Well, anyway, I ended up ordering it from the link and also from Etsy, so I'll be getting. If anybody's in my area, I'll be getting multiple packages.
That's all right. You know what? You can use it for your general health on your own. It's magical in ceremony, but it works very well outside of ceremony as well.
Good to know. And I have a question about the instruments. It seems like drumming is recommended. I don't have a drum. I mean, I could use a tin can to drum one. I have an 8-tone these metal things with a little wooden mallet.
It's not a chime; it's a steel drum. You have a steel.
They're chimes, but they're in a row, lined up.
So the problem with anything real metal outside of a steel drum is it blows the sound out. Nobody can hear each other.
Okay, and so the same with the singing bowl is probably too loud.
You're gonna blow everybody out.
Got it.
I mean, even if you have a rattle or tuning forks, blow everybody out. So tuning forks, rattles, little drums are fine. I still think, Robbie, you can put it on mute and play your bowl in your house and you can enjoy it because that's a wonderful thing, but it won't blow us out as long as you're on mute.
Will it benefit the group? I don't want to, if it's not going to benefit the group, yeah. So I'll figure something out that I can drum on.
There you go. Okay.
I'll just.
Yeah, because I don't have drums or a cymbal or anything either. It's either singing or a flute. So.
That's fine. That's fine. You'll go with whatever. And you can even just tap like this, you know,
Okay.
that will do the same thing. So I like to invite people to participate on a whole variety of levels, but I've done the thing with the Tibetan, with the tingshas, with the bells, with the bowls, and everybody's like,
too much. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's where we go. If you can give yourself an hour and a half next week, I'm willing to give that. If you can give that extra time, I'm happy to do that for you.
I'm so excited about this. This is awesome.
Let's see, we're not gonna have Janet today. Janet is up to her ears in baby. So we need to send her some good energy. She locked herself and the baby and Megan out of the car. Everything's okay now, but I think she's sounding a little bit overwhelmed. So we'll send some good energy Janet's way. And then this is our last chapter, Marie.
Yep.
Wow.
It is. Can you believe it? We actually got through the 13 chapters.
Next time we're going to do Dr. Seuss, right?
The last chapter is places we go to self-assess.
Right. So,
pride, hubris, and humility.
Yeah.
And I learned that hubris is really dangerous and that we really want humility, which I was glad to hear, because my usual term when I need to humble myself is like, I need to eat humble pie, Idel. You need to come up with a pie of humbleness.
Before we get started, let's have Marilyn do our protection today. And it's 10 after, so I think anyone else can join in when they get here. But Marilyn, can you handle that for us, please?
Absolutely. So get comfy, take a deep breath. Oh, and just feel anything you don't need, any heaviness or angst or just whatever you don't need, any stress, just feel it draining out of your body and into the earth. And there it's transmuted into nice things to feed the plants of that energy. Take a breath and feel the energy above you. We clothe ourselves in a robe of light composed of the love, the power, and the wisdom of divine consciousness. We wear it not only for our own protection, but also so that those who see it or come in contact with it will be drawn to divine and healing. Take a breath. Let the light surround you. Let it permeate you. Let it fill you up. It's already there. It's already done. Feel it as it emanates from you and connects us to each other and to the all and to divine. As we let the mind relax into the reality that we are the light and all that we manifest is part of that light, and we're all connected to each other. Another breath and just feel the centeredness, feel your heart, and there we go.
Thank you, Marilyn.
We all sat.
Yeah.
So places we go to self-assess. So she starts off with pride. Pride. Pride is the feeling of pleasure or celebration related to our accomplishments or efforts. So, and then she went on in the same page on 242 on hubris is an inflated sense of one's own innate abilities that is tied more to the need for dominance than to actual accomplishments. And the need for dominance is where the difference lies between hubris and humility. In humility, you don't have the need for dominance. You're literally just showing up and saying, okay, what do I need to learn and how do I work on this? Whereas to hubris, you're wanting to take over, not for your growth, but because I see it as a big fully. But humility is openness to new learning combined with balanced and accurate assessment of our contributions, including our strengths, imperfections, and opportunities for growth. And she went on to say that in her research, they got all of this really wrong. And this is what was surfacing as they were doing the research. Pride is always an interesting one, right? Because it has, to me, I think it has a negative and positive connotation, because we think about being prideful, and then we think about having pride in the work that we do, or some of our, like Idel, she does those beautiful pies we just saw this morning. And, you know, she takes pride and love in presenting her pies to people. And for those of us that love to cook, that's where the people feel our love, is through our food. And I take pride in that. So that's a whole different way, right? Who got to read the chapter this time around, since it's the last one? Whoa, okay. So what are your thoughts on pride? What did you learn?
Well, she called that authentic pride, where you take pride in your accomplishments and what you do and what you give to others. So that's different than whatever inauthentic pride was, something fear-based or narcissistic.
Yeah, and then, like I said earlier, there is different types of pride. You know, that I was thinking about the family pride, some of the things that we've been inculcated and how proudful they are. Last week I was talking with one of my clients who has two children, and one is going to become a psychologist and the other one's going to become a doctor. He's in medical school. And as he was talking about it, he was very full of pride and love for them, because he was talking about how in his family, there wasn't a factor of education. He said, I worked really hard to get my education and build my business. And then he was even more ecstatic that his children are continuing on in getting an education and how important. But when he was talking about them, you could feel the love and joy and the sacrifice that he went through, because he said at times he worked 3 to 4 jobs and trying to go to school, you know, so he was very proudful of all the effort he put forth, but even more so when he saw that his children were benefiting from the work that he was doing. So there's a difference in that family pride, right? That he taught them well. So do you guys have any examples?
Examples of what? I'm sorry.
Of pride or?
Pride of how it manifests in your life?
I would agree. I mean, I'm so proud of my children and their accomplishments. I can't take credit for it. I just feel proud of them because they did it on their own.
Yeah. But don't forget, we go back to the 4 agreements. They learned some of the agreements you taught them that let them propel forward and make choices for themselves. If it weren't for those agreements, you know, they would have had maybe different choices.
I can't say that they're all that impeccable with their words. They do their best.
Yes.
They do make presumptions. But they haven't read the book either. They haven't studied the 4 agreements.
Yeah, in terms of the 4 agreements, what I'm talking about is that what you've taught them, those were agreements that they learned from you, right? And so
I hope so.
So in there, they picked up some of the agreements that gave them the tools and the understanding for them to make choices in life and navigate. Not all agreements are bad. No, but do you see how I bring back the 4 agreements?
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
It's they're amazing. I love just looking at the poster from time to time and reminding myself. Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the ugly one. Now, the word hubris is one that I don't normally use, and she talked about it in the book, how it's not, you know, commonly used, but apparently it's starting to be. She found some research where it was being used. So as I defined earlier, this is on 243, hubris is an inflated sense of one's own innate abilities that is tied up more to the need for dominance than to actual accomplishments.
Who would that be in our public arena.
Oh, well, Donald Trump, I alone can fix this.
But you know what's interesting is that hubris very much ties in with that narcissism.
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking about that because early on when I was doing my master's program, I had a supervisor who we would talk about narcissism because, of course, we'd see it when we were out working with people. You would get people that essentially had met the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. And so when we would get together in the group, we would discuss narcissism. And this particular supervisor, you know, said, well, she said, I don't think being narcissistic is too bad because we do need certain levels of it. You know, and she said, politics, look into politics. They have to have an above average level of narcissism in order for them to take on all that they have to do. And I thought, you know, that's true. And then when my doctorate program, I went on to do a section on training on assessments. And we were doing assessments with police officers, nurses, and doctors. And it turns out that the police department want people to have higher than normal, right? Mostly in the above average or superior range in terms of altruistic patterns of behaviors, but also narcissistic. So that's why we see them be a little bit cocky when they can, you know, walk and it's because most of the people that are hired, they have to have an above average level of narcissism because of what they're exposed to. And it doesn't mean that they don't get traumatized, because I also treated police officers that were traumatized, but it helps them cope better. And then of course, we also see a high level of alcoholism with them as well, because they turn to alcohol, you know, so it's interesting.
But wouldn't some of that lend itself to some of like the behavior we've seen over the last few years, you know, that narcissistic behavior where they've targeted certain individuals and acted out, you know, dominantly and
yeah, hubris, right?
Yeah. So even though they have that, they look for people with that trait, doesn't necessarily always work in the right way.
Yeah. So, and again, that's the sense of that dominance, right? But then she said something about the dominance piece is a sense of coercion through aggression or intimidation.
Here you go again.
There it is.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because now we see that the narcissism of that hubris, we also saw it in the dehumanization. You can see how all of this has played a role throughout the different things that we've looked at in this, you know, but I was just really surprised because I never thought about it until it was brought up in the book. This chapter was interesting because it was long for some reason. The one thing about this is that I feel that hubris, and she talked about in the book about being connected to narcissism, is that narcissism is shame-based. Right. And I'll give you a little bit of education. Kohut was one of the premier persons that really brought up this theoretical perspective to surface, because he was ending up working with people that had all of these traits but didn't fit into a category, because, you know, our diagnostic book is a categorical book. So he began to work with these individuals that struggle with these levels of narcissism. And really it was a shame-based thing because of what they were exposed growing up as children. So there are different types. There's twinship, there's idealization. And, you know, if they don't, any of those needs are not met as they're growing up in their development, then they can get stuck in one of those. And the hardcore narcissists like Trump, it got stuck on all three for sure.
If you read the book, there it is. Mary Trump's book will tell you the whole story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So they do get stuck, and it's one of those conditions that if you have a really good therapist that knows what they're doing, they can actually get better. Because what they do is they go back and reparent that child and give them the validation and all of that stuff that they need in order to get past where they're stuck. It's pretty severe when they get stuck on all three of those. You know, like I think Trump definitely for sure was stuck on all three. And I don't know his whole story, but it just based on what we saw, it's very clear. So, all right, I'm giving it all back to you guys so you can connect the dots. What are your thoughts, feedback?
Go ahead, Alona.
So can we really talk about the near enemies? Because I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And it's something that, you know, the good intentions are paved, you can, what's
The road to hell is
Yes,
paved with
exactly.
good intentions.
That was these near enemies, and really being able to identify the real true, the real pure, as I would say, the fifth dimensional from the third dimensional ego. And I just thought that this was an absolutely wonderful contribution to it, because I don't think if we are vigilant enough in every relationship that we have, whether it be with loved ones or strangers, then we're going to choose a purer path. And then it becomes about being friends and enemies disappear. But this to me was really quite fascinating.
Isn't it? But I think as a country, it does show, you know, how think about how we behave when we go out to other countries. Right. So we do see that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm trying to find the word. Grandiosity, I guess, you know, that we're a leading country and, you know, we're expected for others to speak English, and the French are better at putting us in our place, I think.
They did.
They definitely are. Yeah, so I made the mistake one time to speak English, and oh my gosh, they stuffed me so fast, they would not help. So then I switched to the choppy French that I knew, and then to Spanish, and I got through just fine. They were super sweet. I think they like us Latinas. So, okay, so in terms of that, let me go back, and there was one piece that I wanted to, she was talking about social consciousness, enough that most people, oh, here it is, that enough that most people correctly associate with a pattern of behaviors that include grandiosity, a pervasive need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. That's why it's that what Ilona was talking about, lack of empathy. Empathy is love. You know, and we see a lot of that. Almost no one understands how every level of severity in this diagnosis is underpinned by shame. So there's shame again. And if you remember from the previous chapters that we covered, shame and guilt, and shame is one of those that doesn't allow for change to occur, right? Versus guilt does. Guilt will actually help you approach something with humility, hopefully, right? And make it right and make amends, versus shame, you try to push it down, hide it. It's from Jungian's perspective, it's that shadow part that we push down. We don't want anyone.
Nihilistic.
Yeah. So it's interesting, all of these, because she also talks about the limitation of the words that we use in terms of emotion. And in this book, I mean, she's given us lots and lots of different emotions that we normally don't go to them. We go to the basic ones that we know. So this is really giving us a more understanding about the different types of emotions that are out there. The other thing is that she really does expand on this, but the other piece that I really enjoyed is that what it comes down to each one of these, we cannot just assume how they're feeling. We really do need to ask. So, you know, we think, oh yeah, they're mad. How do you know that that's for sure? Because in her own words, you know, she says, you know, you don't know. There's no way of measuring what another person is feeling just by us seeing them and assuming. You have to ask, because emotions are subjective to each person.
I mean, that happens to all of us, right? When we're in a relationship with somebody, even you know, a spouse or a friend. I mean, that happens. We think that maybe they're angry at us, and turns out no, they're just tired.
Yeah, and it takes me again back to the 4 agreements. You don't assume.
Right.
Don't assume. So I think that was also a poignant statement, is to ask, because there really is no 100% certainty in knowing what the person is feeling unless you ask. True, some of us are big empaths and we can sense it, but as part of our process, we still ask. We still ask about how they're feeling. All right, any thoughts before we move on to humility?
Well, just to go back on what I was just saying, I wonder if any of you experience this too. If you have a friend or someone that asks if you're mad and you really are, but you say, oh, no, I'm just tired. you do the same thing, right? I mean, it's up to us to communicate that. But I mean, I've done that before, because you don't want to hurt their feelings and say, yeah, you really angered me when you did that. But so kind of come up with all these blocks, right? These things that prevent them actually experiencing that.
And she did bring that up in the book. And it's also toxic to do, because then we're trying to be proper and do the right social thing and not hurt feelings. But there is a way we can communicate, and we don't have to be ugly about it. We can be very gentle. And then again, it's on the other person and how they want to take it on. But she does talk about that in this chapter as well, about denying what somebody else is noticing. We all tend to do that. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Yeah, I'm just
because I don't want to tell you what's really wrong.
Yeah. So
well, that doesn't help the situation, does it?
No, not at all, Penny.
Perpetuates it.
Yes, it does. It's
keeps it going, and then as far as I'm concerned, I would feel kind of resentful ongoing that I didn't deal with it or didn't take care of it, and that it just keeps being whatever it is that doesn't agree with me, and that's my fault because I didn't address it.
And the person that is asking and is being denied what they're perceiving, it actually is harmful to them. And I often see this with couples where one partner is picking up all the cues and asking, and the other one's out, no, that's not so. And then when the truth is revealed, then the person that kept asking feels like I was forced to play a part in this situation and I was never asked. My permission was never, asked for in this whole process. And they end up feeling so much more hurt as a result of that, because they had been picking it up and the other one was constantly denying. And so how
do we learn that? How do we learn to do that? Were we programmed not to confront people and not to hurt people's feelings? Which I don't want to do.
We're women. We're not supposed to confront anybody about their stuff.
Very unhealthy. I mean, there has to be a way to do it where you don't make it a really nasty situation. But what is that? Sometimes.
We'll also recognize that, you don't always have to tell the child, no, don't say that, or as you're teaching them, but they pick up from our cues.
Yeah.
We're modeling it.
Yeah. I know. That's trouble.
Marilyn, did you want to say?
A lost cause.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, I think there's also the reality that, especially in a relationship, that we can come to something that the other person might not have gotten yet. And so as we grow and as we open up, of course, the whole thing is allowing vulnerability. And as soon as we're able to do that, the world changes. But I think sometimes we might perceive something with somebody, or, and maybe especially with kids or younger, and we might see it, and you don't want to be all self-righteous or anything like that, and you have to back off, and they grow into it, but they look at us like we have two heads until they're in that place. So I'm finding I need to respect where they are, even though it isn't like I know better and my way might not be their way. I was talking about Zach's move and how he waited till the last minute, and he was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And it's like, you know what? This was your process. You still got it done. And you're still smiling in the morning, even though you didn't sleep and you got out there. So I think it's a combination of integrating with other people's needs and ours. And I guess it's not we anticipate, I guess I'm jumping around, but in terms of resenting somebody else getting it after we got it, sometimes it could be that they're just not in that place yet. Our reality of being in that place, whether we're proselytizing it or not, just being in that more expanded place could be the catalyst to get them further over. You know what I mean? So that was the thought.
Yeah. But I think that goes directly to where we are, each person in our development and how we pick up things.
Yeah.
And then choosing to respond or react.
Exactly.
Donna?
Attached to that thought is one that I'm getting about when we're denying what we're really feeling to somebody else when they point blank asks, like, are you mad? We are undermining our I'm looking for the right thing, our sense of self, in terms of giving the self reason to doubt our word. This is somehow it's connected to something I came across a while back that was like, if you say you're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning, which is when our alarm clock is set for, and you hit the snooze button, you have now lied to yourself. You have told yourself, your inner being, that you can't be trusted to follow the commitment that you made to get up at 5:30 in the morning. And if you keep hitting the snooze button, you're doing that repeatedly, and you're undermining your own sense of autonomy, I guess, maybe. And so if you're thinking that you're going to hit the snooze button anyway, just reset the clock so that you're getting up at the time that you think you're actually going to get up, rather than, we are very guilty of doing this in the morning. So it's just so cozy in here. Let's just stay a little bit longer. I'll hit the snooze button. But I think when we're doing that in terms of our emotions to someone else, that we're doing the same thing. We're sort of telling ourselves, our inner being, that on a certain level we can't be trusted to maintain. And it goes back to the 4 agreements again. The integrity of your word is that you're giving your inner being reason to doubt the integrity of your word, because you're not staying true to that. I don't know if that made any sense, but.
So I think, Donna, you might be talking about self-sabotage, which happens spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So we can do that on every level.
That's really interesting. And it's also, you might have a hypothetical of what you think you need to do the next day. And of course, we have things we're supposed to do, but then you're so thoroughly in the moment. I feel this now. What's wrong with that? If we have the space for it. If we don't, I get it. But listening and saying, oh yeah, okay. I like this. Why not give it? I guess that is the sabotage. But you know what? It's fun talking about this, because then you realize it is sabotage, but at the same time, you woke up to the fact that you liked being where you were at that moment. Why not?
You just not.
And some of us, if you look at ego, sometimes we're not ready to really look at the truth for what it is. So this is what we call resistance in our field. So, we spend a lot of time avoiding or not seeing it for what it is until life just puts it right in your face and go, okay, here I am. You can't ignore me. So, and that is part of the self-sabotaging too.
It's interesting. I think we still have to hold the space for the miracles, always.
Yeah. Sometimes life brings you into awareness gently. And sometimes it just socks you in the belly and says, here I am. I've certainly experienced both.
But that, honestly, that's a choice. The more that we choose to be authentic and honest and vigilant about what's really happening inside ourselves and how we want to go through life, the less we get socked in the stomach.
Yeah, I would agree. But everything we've talked about in terms of the language, the words, it's all on how we choose right? But it comes down to the two concepts. I react or I respond. But in all of this, we are all given choice.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't know, think about it in court. If you got a ticket and you go and argue and say, well, I didn't know, the judge goes, too bad. You're expected to know. You're still paying the ticket, right? And that's kind of the same concept in life is that that's part of our learning. And sometimes the lessons come a little bit difficult or a lot, and sometimes we get it right away. But yes, that's what we call free will. So, all right, you want to get into humility?
Sure.
All right, so she said she's ending the section with humility, and humility is openness to new learning combined with a balanced and accurate assessment of our contributions, including our strengths, imperfections, and opportunities for growth. So one of the things I used to tell my kids as they were growing up, I would tell them, make good choices. And I said, and make sure you make good choices, because if you don't, then God will humble you. And when he does it, it hurts. And each one of them said, we never got it until they hit that part where like, oh, I get it. I said, you see, I said, the opportunities are there. You do it yourself so that when life really corners you, it doesn't, it's not as painful. But especially in our culture, we were raised with learning about being humble. Let's see, what did she say? So she says from her research, I had mentioned earlier, the difference between hubris and humility is that the concept with humility is that I'm here to get it right, not to be right. That's the difference. And then hubris is dangerous, of course. But with humility is, I want to get this right. It's that part where you're really working through your ego and saying, I'm showing up. Can we really work through this, or can I understand it? And doing active listening kind of thing. She goes on to say the emotion of humility involves understanding our contributions in context in relation to both the contributions of others and our own place in the universe. It's different from pride. In what we feel pride, we focus entirely on the positive aspects of a specific accomplishment, which can be healthy and productive, right? So in this sense, we're looking at the big picture. I know when I've had to really humble myself, I've really had to work through the dissonance of whatever my ego was bringing forth, and then recognize how I need to approach things. One of the things with my middle child, she and I are very similar in personalities, and she would say things that I swear I just wanted to strangle her sometimes. And so I would want to say something and I could feel the words getting ready to come out. And then I just quickly asked myself, is this my ego? And then my ego would scream, yes. So I literally would turn around and walk out, because I knew whatever I was going to say was not going to benefit her other than my ego. So I would literally walk out, and she would always look like, why are you just walking out? And because I just didn't want those words to come out. And then once I would sit back and really reflect on it, then I would just take the deep breath and go, okay, now I can go talk to her. And then I would talk to her and, approach it and saying, hey, I understand your point of view. This is what I was trying to say. So I worked at not showing up as the one that had the power, but rather the one that could just join in for the purpose of her learning. That was really hard because, when I first learned to do this, I struggled so much with that because, I wanted to be right. So that's an example that I have in terms of humility. So she also talks about intellectual humility, which refers specifically to a willingness to consider information that doesn't fit with our current thinking. Think about in today's times, how many things have we been, placed that we may not necessarily agree with.
Right? And we still need to open more.
Mm-hmm. And then she says, people who demonstrate intellectual humility don't lack confidence or conviction. They may hold strong views, but they are also open to hearing the other points of view. They are curious and willing to adjust their beliefs when faced with new or conflicting information. Humility allows us to admit when we're wrong. We realize that getting it right is more important than needing to prove that we are right. So a type of leadership that fits this intellectual humility is a transformational leader. These are the kind of leaders that we really need more in corporate America, because they're not focused on I'm right. They're focused of how do we get this right? Let me join in. Transformational leaders will work alongside with their employees instead of just sitting on top. One of the leaders that stands out for me like that, which I really admire his way of doing things, is Jeffrey Weiner. He's the, I think he was the CEO of LinkedIn, or the CFO, where he went through this whole process of recognizing what he was doing. And he actually became a transformational leader, where he really wanted to join in with the employees, really wanted to understand them. And if there were conflicts in terms of their productivity, or they just weren't getting the position, he was very gentle in letting people go. He wasn't one of those of cutthroat. He was somebody that really wanted to understand, why is this person not a right fit? What's going on? And as a result of that, he didn't get the attention because of LinkedIn. He got the attention because of his approach.
So he didn't just say, you're fired.
No. Before he would even get to that, he really wanted to understand what is happening with this person.
It's wonderful.
And that is a transformational leader.
Marie?
Yeah?
Can I take this to, it's sort of, it's sort of more of a, I won't say it's a micro level, but apply it to the way individuals relate to each other. I mean, on a more personal basis, because I mean, she coins the term intellectual humility. And that I find is a theme in my life in trying to interact with people. I feel it's really important to stay open, and I see mistrust engendered in our society to the degree that people have a need to be right and no intellectual humility. They're not open to the possibility that there's some little tiny bit that the other person that they have labeled as different has to give to them that's beneficial. And I try to be open to everybody. I have people in my own sphere who are very politically different than I am, but I you know, I've made a point of saying, you know, we probably won't agree on the ivermectin as the cure for COVID-19, but we have other areas, and you know, I still want to hear what this person has to say. It's not, it may be anathema on an intellectual level to me, but it's important to me that I understand other people's perspectives and not jam mine down their throat. And I think that's lacking. Intellectual humility is like, is rare.
Yeah. So first, let me say, in terms of our need, that really what you're describing is we want to be right because we want to please. And why do we want to please? Because we want to be heard. We want to be accepted for who we are. We don't want to be judged. So this goes back to our development, right? And if you think about it, each one of us are at different places in our emotional, psychological, and spiritual development. And like you said, you want to be open. And at least our group is more aware because we've been touching upon big concepts. And all of us in this group are much more evolved than many people out there. And I'm just generalizing a little bit, but we're coming to an understanding that most people haven't even come across yet. Right? And so when we're open to somebody and we may not agree with that person, we're in a place now that we can see, okay, this person isn't quite where they need to be, and you can respect that, but you come from a place of love, just like you were saying, keeping your heart open. And when you're approaching that, you may not agree and your body may be reacting to it, but it's let me be open. Let me come from a place of love versus a place of fear. That to me, that's where the difference is. But it's also understanding that each one of us is in a different place in our development. Our group, you know, is a little further along because we've done a lot of work in this area and we've gained a lot of understanding. If I look at this and think back to when I was in my, you know, teens and 20s, nowhere would I have, you know, have all of this understanding. I was still very, very, not that I'm not full of ego now, but then I was working so hard at being right.
I had this discussion almost word for word with somebody on Saturday. And I said, when I was 20, I was dating this boy and I went to his parents' home and they were sophisticates in my mind, you know, world weary sophisticates. And you could not tell me I did not know anything, okay, at that point in my life. So they offered me pickled herring. It, you know, comes in a jar, looks kind of gray with white stuff floating around in it. As Latina, I had never seen pickled herring before, I guarantee you. But you could not tell me. I just, like, at all times in that stage of my development, you couldn't tell I hadn't had it every day for breakfast, you know, and it was really important to come from the position that I was always right. And that has to do with everybody's development at that age, I imagine. Like you're saying, Marie, 20 years old. Yep, that's about right. But some people can't seem to develop past that, which is a shame, you know.
And that's their journey, right? And Ilona taught me this. We just respect them where they are for the choices that they make. Right? Hopefully, if they encounter you, there'll be some positive aspect about you that they will internalize. And then down the line, you know, help them change. I think I've shared this story with you guys. You know, before I even started with grad level stuff, I was so entrenched in the science that if science didn't explain it, it wasn't so. Mm-hmm. So I was very, very cognitive, not that I'm not now, but much more then. And I went on a trip and we went to Glastonbury. I went with a friend and she was really big into King Arthur. And so she got us a B&B, and the owner of the place, it was one of those self-serve B&Bs. So it was a 2-bedroom little apartment kind of thing. And so he met us there and let us know how everything worked. And we were sitting down having a conversation. I was so much younger in those days, much, much younger. And so we were talking. He was some kind, I knew he was psychic, and he was an understudy for somebody else. And I think he was probably into past lives. I wasn't sure, but I wasn't buying anything of what he was saying. And so we were having conversations and I kept bringing it back to science and bringing it back to science. And then at one moment he looked at me, he said, it must be really hard to walk in your shoes. That at some point you're going to have to get out of this and into here. At that moment, I'm like, what the heck does that mean? I have no idea. But his words have stayed with me, because as I've been gaining insight and understanding, I completely understood what he was trying to convey to me. And if you were to ask me what he looked like today, I don't remember what he looked like, but his words have stayed with me.
Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the planet.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow. You know, and in those days, I didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I would go to the Abbey right across the street, because I mean, it's like a 1-street place. And I swear to you, everywhere I went, I felt like I was being watched, but there was nobody there. Mm-hmm. Nobody there. But I literally felt like I was being watched every step I took. And so now it makes sense, the energy there. Okay.
You were being watched. It's interesting because Einstein, I've had the honor of channeling him for over 25 years, and I'm sure he channels to many through many. I know he does, but his key thing is humility is the key to humanity. And he says there are all these, I just got a hug. He says there are a lot of people out there who are smart, and he talks about the Nazis using some of his discoveries in ways that he was not happy about. And there are many, you know, we use the name Einstein because we know him, we can have a picture, but there are many, many who are not so famous, and they're working with us and talking about compassionate and brilliant leaders. They're choosing who to help and who to channel into and who to expand with. And the number one criteria is humility, because brains, there are plenty of people, there are plenty of geniuses. So it's exactly what you're saying, Marie. It's like when it drops down into the heart, when you're using it for the gut, and he adds when it's for the expansion of the all and not for one. And what I'm getting is that the whole corporate thing has, I just saw something where we're second in the least amount of vacation days. And then there's a list of countries you've never heard of that are like, and then every other developed country. It's narrowed our views, and it's narrowed. This is interesting. I haven't heard this before. He's saying it's narrowed our idea of our own humanity. You don't need that. You don't need to take time off when someone dies. You don't need to do. And so we really need to expand our humanity and allow it and not have it suppressed. And he said in his timing, around World War II and after, there was so much nurturing that had to happen, but there was so much post-traumatic syndrome. And now people are forgetting as the people are dying off. And of course, the Vietnamese, the Vietnam War, the veterans, and there's so much war going on in different places. And in the places where we haven't had it on our own ground, we forget the humility. We forget how quickly everything can change, like it did in Ukraine or it did in other places. So they're picking and choosing who they work with. And he's saying, and make no mistake, this is happening in other genres too. It's happening in mathematics and in all the sciences and in music and in art. And even, that's really funny, even in baking and what happens with the chemical reactions of what happens, because baking is an alchemist. Every single one of the things we do, it's alchemy. And so to direct it, that's really funny because the languaging changes when it's him. So to direct it to what you were saying, dear lady, and he means you, Sophia, is you want to maintain your kindness and your humility and your humanity when talking to people, but you still have to recognize that if they don't recognize and understand the rights of others, your gut will make you pull back. It will come up past your heart and you will want to speak. So you'll have a real dichotomy between the intention of your soul to get along with all, and then looking at people and feeling like you want to have, here's what happens, dear, you have a direct response like them, a knee-jerk reaction where we pull back because they become other, because they've made the other. And you see how it rolls like dominoes. So it's humility and recognizing that we all have a soul that can grow, and there are many things that might have made it this way. But recognize and take responsibility for the gut instinct that makes you scream no, even as you are being civilized in their presence, because you should not accept and agree with. Be civilized, yes, dear, but don't agree with them, because the silence is what hurts people. And so we are very careful. And we, you know, there's so many of you, and we are so blessed that so many are conscious. Do not hesitate in feeling somewhat relieved, massively relieved that we're helping you and we're working on the humility that will save the humanity. And in this, we have not just great hope, but we know we are winning the expansion here. That was nice.
Thank you.
He's been hanging around just going, humility is the key to humanity. I mean, about that, you know, that was a really big thing. I mean, when I channeled that, I was like, holy shit, you know, and so, you know, I wrote about it, but he's just been hanging out here going, okay, be polite, you know, so thank you.
Marilyn, you also brought in the message, a key word, intention.
See, nobody don't remember. So yeah.
Intention, you know, it's all based from what you're intending. So
exactly.
if it's coming from a bad place, a fearful place, there is no humility.
And they won't work with you. They'll be civilized and say hello, and they won't trip you as you walk down the street. He says sometimes he feels he wished he did in his day. He remained civilized in terms of leaders who he knew should not have what he's privy to. So yeah, it's discernment and for the good of all. So he's just saying, reiterating, when your tongue gets numb and you get a buzzing in your ear because it doesn't resonate, do not blame yourself. That was more for the conversation with you, Sophia, but it's with for all. I think we can recognize that and know it and still be nice and civilized and still wish them the best and send them with a blessing from it.
I think that's important. I think two things. I think of repetition of like a theme of Tikkun Olam, like for good of everyone. I don't think I think in listening to somebody who has maybe holds opinions that are reprehensible to me, I think that's important to, and I think this follows from what you're saying. I'm not reactive. I think it's really important not to be reactive. I mean, it's important. I'm not accepting them. I'm not taking in the perspective, but to have a knee-jerk reaction to it that is very in their face, it has no benefit. They're not going to take it in. They're not going to say,
Absolutely.
"Oh, thanks for explaining."
No, but you know what? I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but you can take. I think it's also, and a little bit, the concept of keep your friends close and keep your friends even closer. And I seek to understand other perspectives because there's a protection in it and a usefulness as well as just the fact that I want to be open and to engender trust with people I don't know, because I always working on that.
So two things you said, I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people are looking for the reaction so they could dig their heels in about them being right. So I totally get that. You want to be open and be able to hear it. You said something really beautiful, and I don't know if you did it on purpose or if anyone else heard it. You said you want to keep your friends close, and the phrase is, and you want to keep your enemies closer, but you said friends.
Oh, I did.
And that was really beautiful. Because we're all souls,
Well, and I try to, in my community, ladies, I don't know if this is true everywhere. And Donna, you live in my community, but I find it, I know what it's based in, but I find it fascinating that there is a belief that is very closely held among the inhabitants of the very safe town that Donna and I live in, that you cannot answer the door. People do not answer the door if it's not someone they don't know. We don't live in, I don't know, in a shanty town in Rio. I mean, there is very little crime here. It's very safe, but people are strident in their mistrust of other people. Everybody is other. And I think the issue, going off on a tangent, is mistrust. And how that has grown. People do not trust. Maybe not everybody's trustworthy, but everybody is not trustworthy. And that seems to be where people are coming from right now.
Which takes it right back to fear.
So,
yeah.
So Sophia, her theory on meaningful connection is your answer, right? She lays out, do you want to do that, Marie? She lays out the 3 aspects of meaningful connection. And that is the future of being, those who are truly humble are servants. You cannot be anything else in humility. You serve all. That's just the way it works. But her theory on meaningful connection at the end of the book really aligns with everything that you're saying, Sophia. And she puts it out there as a theoretical construct that the entire field, you know, social work and psychology and psychiatry can get behind to create a paradigm of connection that allows us to respect each other rather than dismiss each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if you look in the book, 255, she's got like a whole diagram of each step, like step 1, step 2, and how to cultivate. I don't know if you guys can see it. And if you have the book too, I think there's a PDF that you can access online. Oh, there you go. So yeah, it's just, Ilona got it. But yes, I love how she gives you how, you know, research is done and grounded theory and all of that stuff. But like I told you guys, I'm a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. And listening to this part, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have gone down that route. So, but she does like step 1 for cultivating meaningful connection is skill sets for cultivating, developing grounded confidence, learning and improving. And under that is knowing and applying the language of human experience and emotion, practicing courage, rumbling with vulnerability, staying curious, practicing humility, committing to mastery and practice, feeling embodied and connected to self. Now, all of these steps, think about it. There's not a lot of people that would even get it because they're still just starting to learn. I mean, if this was me in my teens, I'd be like, what does that mean? Practicing humility,
so,
you know?
I want to put this out there. Yes, the general public is still ignorant and arrogant, but I want to put this out there. Look at this group. There are millions of these groups all over the world. We are not as ignorant or arrogant as we were. We are part of this core wave that is literally creating a 5th dimensional awareness. So I just want us to refocus from so many ignorant, arrogant, egotistical, and just refocus on we're part of this wave. We're bringing more to the fore, and there's more groups like this unfolding, and our presence in our communities encourages others to wake up to meaningful connection. And so I just, because we said it so much today, I was just like, it's December, it's the season of miracles. Let's just, you know, restructure that so that as we go through this month, we put out, we are welcoming all those willing to wake up. Meaningful connection, and we are inviting them to the best feast on the planet, which is the feast of unconditional love,
which is being part of a different collective. You know, we can choose to be a collective of love.
Yes, I think, Sophia, you walk in the mantra that I use because I'm afraid to engage with people like you do. And it's always, I ask that this encounter be of mutual benefit and to the greatest good of all involved. And I think you walk that talk. I talk it, you walk it, because I'm afraid, right? But I have a really cute story about opening the door. Can we move on to cute?
Yeah.
So my dog is very reactive, right? And we live in a small apartment, and she'll bark at anything she perceives as maybe coming in the door, right? And so yesterday we were a little discombobulated, and the doorbell rang, which is weird because it's not close to the door, it's kind of next to it, and it went ding. And so Hector grabs Sochi, and I open the door, and there's this angelic man standing there, and he's selling tamales because it's that time of year. And I was completely open to him. And I'm like, okay, how much? What are they? And then I asked Hector, you know, this is what we've got. What would you like? And And to keep the dog from barking when we put in our order, I walked out with him so that she wasn't aware of us, right? And I was speaking English with him because he spoke English. And we're walking out and I give him $8 for 2 tamales. And he says, no, it was only 3. And I said, oh, I thought you said 4. And he said, no. And I said, well, Feliz Navidad. 2 words. And it was just this, whoa! He just was like, you know, wonderful and blessings. And I mean, I got so blessed, it was, so I just thought, oh, we just had an angel come by. And it was, I felt so proud that I didn't react negatively, right? I was like, I just went straight into it. and it was wonderful, and the tomatoes were good. So, I mean, it was just like, if you can get out of your own fear, which is what I'm attempting to do, and live it's of mutual benefit and for the greatest good of all, then wow. So I think what you do is exactly that without the mantra.
Well, Mary Beth, you know, I came to this the hard way, of necessity. You know, I don't think that 20 years ago I felt at all like this. And I learned that, you know, when you're open to people, the opportunities are really amazing. And like you're saying, that connection that you made brought you a lot of joy. And I find that on the whole, it's joyful. It's, you know, I rarely run across people who make me wonder, gee, should I have even tried to reach out or connect on any level with this person, including those are nice earrings? I mean, you know, most people are happy. They're looking for a connection unless they've had a bad day, you know, and they hate everybody. And I said to somebody the other day, you know, with respect to the door, when you're closing the door, you're also closing the door to opportunity. So yeah, and that's nice. How were the tamales?
Good. Wow. So go ahead, Alona.
I was just going to say, if you want to watch a really sweet Christmas movie that takes you outside the box a bit, it's Christmas Chateau on Amazon Prime. It's a really sweet movie, and the mansion that it's filmed in is utterly spectacular. But it's, you know, it opens up different aspects of things. It's not just the typical dorky movie. It has other features to it that make it a little bit more interesting.
Okay.
Christmas Chateau, you said?
Chateau, yes.
Do we see the architecture? And
yeah, it's a fantastic Victorian mansion with a carving of William Shakespeare in hardwood over the, you know, massive mantelpiece, and like mahogany dragons carved on each side of the massive staircase, and all of the tin-typed roofs and the inlaid tiles on the floor. They did this on location. It's probably in Canada somewhere because it's cheaper, but it's a gorgeous house to just look at while they're doing their, you know, telling the story. I enjoyed the house as much as I enjoyed the story.
Okay. Yay. Marie, there is a lot beyond those first three things that we haven't tackled, but I was like, whoa, what happened? You know, we're just doing this little humidity, hubris, and then all of a sudden it got really technical and scary for me. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. So I didn't read that very last part of that chapter. I kind of thought it was more like.
Yeah, this was actually, it wasn't part of the chapter, the last chapter. She's just giving you the framework of her theoretical perspective and then how she works. And then she also has some things that she defines. She talks about grounded confidence and then power. Let me see, I was trying to say, I like the, in terms of power, she gave an example from Martin Luther King in a speech that she thought it was striking. And he defined power as the ability to achieve purpose and affect change. So it's a more positive approach, you know, towards power, because when we think about power, we also have a negative connotation to it because of history. But here she's talking, and she talks about how we all kind of struggle to use that word power, but I use it quite a bit with my clients. in terms of empowering themselves. And then when they set boundaries, I tell them there you're strengthening your power, your self-power to forge ahead. So, and the other side of it, she did talk about that sense of powerlessness, but that is what's behind fear. It's that sense of powerlessness. So when we talk about power, I like to think of it in terms of the 4 agreements of you being impeccable with your word. When you own everything about you and you don't feel the shame about it, you rather just own it, then you have empowered yourself, and that energy actually gravitates onto others, and they don't know what it is, but they're like, I want that. I want to be in that space with that. Because I come across a lot of people that, well, they'll say, I don't know what it is, but there's something about you that makes me feel very comfortable. You're easy to talk to, you know.
I enjoyed the book a lot. There were areas that I'm really grateful to have you, Marie, because there's areas in it I just wasn't sure what the hell was going on. And so I appreciate you helping guide us through this book. It was a big book. So.
Well, it's like a textbook.
Yeah, and thank you, Marie. You did a really good job because this was a lot of work. It wasn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And we'll take a little book break for a while. And next week we're going to have our cacao. Is there anything you needed to add, Alona, before that?
No, just if you can give a little extra time, then it can just be more fun. And there'll be a lot of channeling, there'll be a lot of music, and it'll be a wonderful way to set you into the whole season.
Okay.
And what's the date on that? Next Monday or the 12th?
The 12th.
12th.
The 12th?
Yes.
Okay, the 12th is not Monday, is it? Or is it?
It's next Monday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up with something else. Yep, thank you.
Yes.
Never mind.
It's cool talking about how some people want to serve, and I think there's so much going on here and so many people doing wonderful things, but I really want to point out, Lisa, thank you. What you do to keep this group together, you're running all over the place, you work like crazy, and yet you make time and you do this, and this is really, you know, thank you from all of us, because there's so much technically, I mean, I don't have a clue. And you are the best wrangler. And everyone who's new thinks you're a therapist because you know how to guide us so well or wrangle us back in. So appreciation.
Yay!
Wow, thanks.
Thank you.
Lisa the Wrangler. I'm going to put that on my business card.
Wrangler.
Well, ladies, this was wonderful. Again, Marie, I can't thank you enough. You know, you come up with these wonderful selections and initiate such beautiful conversations. So thank you. And everybody.
All for your feedback, you know, and sharing your stories and your questions. And I mean, none of the questions were dumb. They were all brilliant, and it gave us a lot to think about.
Yeah, it did. It was wonderful. And they're books that I never would have read. So how's that too? So ladies, have a wonderful week. I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Monday for our cacao ceremony. So, and if anyone needs any help with finding cacao, let me know, and I'll help you if I can.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.